What is going on, you guys? It is your boy Cyrus Obsidian here at Obsidian Games, here to bring you some information to look forward to post-Worlds. So let us dive right in. So at time of recording, Worlds is going on this weekend. We have just seen the top 8 get called, and it was phenomenal seeing them play. If you haven't seen them, go ahead and check out their YouTube, Konami's Yu-Gi-Oh! YouTube channel for it. A lot of the plays were amazing, and it's cool to see some of these decks that are playing in Worlds, like Malice. We got Crystron K9, Vanquish Soul K9, Yummy. Surprisingly, no Draco Tail. We've got a Sky Striker player. I mean, it's insane what is being played at Worlds. And with that, I want to give you guys my top 5 budget rogue decks post-Worlds, assuming they give us a ban list this week that'll hit some of those stronger decks, not directly, but indirectly, where decks like Malice and Ryzeal don't get any touches, but they do get indirect hits to where their consistency is just brought down just a little bit, since those decks are still good in this format. It's just new toy syndrome. You got a lot of people playing the new decks from Justice Hunters, and that's what I want to give you. Decks that aren't from Justice Hunters. Decks that don't rely on any of the support from Justice Hunters. These decks are budget. You can pick them up for around and no more than $100. And finally, these aren't the 5 big decks in the room. And I am talking about Yummy, K9 Vanquish Soul, Malice, Ryzeal, and Draco Tail, because Draco Tail does have a lot of representation. I will also be excluding Crystron, since K9 is being played in Crystron, and it does give it a huge buff and support. Crystron on its own can fare pretty well, but we ain't here to talk about that. But in fact, one of the decks that we are here to talk about is actually being played in Worlds, which is Lunalite. Lunalite, being a fusion-based strategy around Beast Warriors, has a lot of synergy that can be played on its own with Lunalite, between the Lunalite Gold Leo, Lunalite Kaleido Chick, being able to get into your big boss monsters in your tower of Lunalite Liger Dancer. The deck has so much versatility in going both first and second, whether you play this as a hand trap build or a board breaker build, or as a straight gas build. We have seen in the World's Championship Series today, the Lunalite deck that is moving forward to top 8 was playing a lot of just booming cards that just kind of push through. You're playing cards like Ultra Polymerization, which does have a hefty cost, but it is worth the cost if you are able to go uninterrupted and establish your board. So that's why Lunalite ranks as my #1 deck choice for your top rogue decks post Worlds. You can easily pick up this deck for honestly under $50 if you exclude cards like Dominus Impulse, which can be played into this deck, which is really phenomenal. And if you play more of a hand trap build, you are going to be seeing a little bit higher pricing. But if you play just straight gas, which a lot of people are leaning more towards, this deck is relatively cheap. Your most expensive card will be Lunalite Gold Leo, which thankfully is no more than $10. But on to the next option. This one can be a little bit of a copian take, because this one does have a little bit more pricier cards, but to me it is Regenesis. Regenesis avoids the K9s completely. You are not activating anything in hand. It's able to play pretty well into Yummy, being able to just book their monster that they summon when they normal, or if they happen to go into Obedience School, you do kind of run into issues there, but that's where you have Regenesis Sage, being able to negate your opponent's Obedience School, which is really good for you. But this deck just floats a lot, and the best part of this deck is Regenesis on its own is pretty cheap, so you can build this as a hand trap or a board breaker build. I like to more lean towards a board breaker build, but you can also play hand traps in the build as well that do help it push it forward. The one other great thing about Regenesis is that as long as there are monsters with 2500 attack or defense on the field, that includes both yours and your opponent's, they can be summoned for free minus Regenesis Archfiend, which means this deck plays pretty well with hand in hand with cards like the Bystials. If the Bystials were seeing a lot more play this format, Bystials would be really good in Regenesis, but my favorite version is the Kashtira Regenesis build. Being able to take some of those sneaky one-ofs out of your opponent's deck, such as the yummy field spells with Kashtira Fenrir, or being able to take a look at their extra deck when they have activated a Molchari Fuelos on you, or a Perulia. You can just take a look at that extra deck, rip whatever one-ofs they might have, or just kind of hinder their plays a little bit with Unicorn. As long as you get that knowledge, you are going to be cooking them pretty well. So that's why Regenesis takes my number 2 spot. I think this deck has a lot of potential, and with new support later down coming down the line, I wish it was better support, but it's support nonetheless. This deck has the advantage that monsters 2500 attack and defense do mesh well with this deck. So anything like that comes out in the future is technically support for Regenesis. My third option is going to be an option that is really, really cheap, minus some cards, but it is also very dependent on how you build it. I think Blue Eyes is considered rogue now. We have moved past the Blue Eyes era when the structure deck came out earlier this year, and we are in the Juhu format, or technically Duad format, but come on, we're really in Juhu. Where we're seeing decks like Dracotail K9 and Yummy just kind of supersede its predecessors. And I think Blue Eyes has a lot of potential. Blue Eyes does shut out cards like Obedient Schooled. It shuts down cards like K9 Joku and Lantern, where it is trying to summon 2 monsters with Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon. Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon also being able to shut out Lupus, which is really crazy. The deck has a lot of ways to play around, a lot of these newer decks, which is really awesome. And it also depends on how you build it. You build it with a Primite engine, your most expensive card is going to be Primite Lordly Load, which has only 2 printings, but a third one is on the way in the Megaton reprint, which I am hoping that it will knock it down enough to make it more of a better option, because at current standpoint, the card is sitting at around $19 to $20, which I'm hoping with a third reprint, even though it's secret, could drop that, I'm hoping, by half, so that way the Primite engine does become a little bit cheaper for this deck. If not, the Invoked engine is also crazy. I think you're able to play with your graveyard and your opponent's graveyard, Alistair's your way into Blue Eyes Spirit, or into the Sage, into their Link 1, whatever their Link 1 is. Spirit with Eyes of Blue, I think. Maybe. I don't know. It's been so long since I've played Blue Eyes in the Invoked engine in it, but that's aside the point. Alistair's a 1-card combo into Blue Eyes, which is crazy. More like 2-card combo, really, but it does get the Blue Eyes engine going, which is really awesome. It gives you cards like Makaba that you can play. You're able to also use Invoked Arguides, which is really great at being able to just pop stuff whenever a monster is special summoned to either your opponent's field, specifically from the extra deck, I believe, or if this card itself is special summoned, it's able to just pop a card, which is really crazy. As well, you do get the flexibility of playing cards like Invoked Caliga with Darks being in the meta. You can also play Invoked Ragin, which is a Book of Moon. Invoked Purgatrio, which is a classic for being able to close out games fast and being able to inflict piercing. The deck is versatile depending on how you build it. My next option is probably going to be a little bit of a hot take because I have a lot of love for this deck personally, and that is Melodious. Melodious, I think, is really insane into this format right now. Being able to set up a lock with both Aria and Elegy, you're able to just prevent your opponent from killing you. But not only that, having Etoile as a non-target bounce, Schuberta as a DD Crow that is not once per turn, especially when it is removed from the board. And most of the times you can get 2 copies of that on the board. So you've got 2 DD Crows, being able to get rid of Yummy extenders, Yummy cards, the field spells, being able to get rid of any of the K9 engine, getting rid of the Arthelions for Dracotail. It's not all that great into Malice, but Etoile is that non-target bounce, which can get rid of their normal summon, get rid of their Splash Mage when they go to use its effect. Into the Mitsurugi Ryziel, being able to get rid of the Ryziel names from the graveyard, getting rid of the Eclipse Twins, or even their Murakumo and Hawakiri once they activate their effects, to to be able to banish them since they can't come back, since they are no longer in their designated slot when they activated. Schuberta is good at cleaning that out, and that's why I think Melodious is really great. Also, it is the only deck in this format right now that can play any of the Heralds, which is really crazy. Herald of the Orange Light being able to be that monster negate and destruction, getting rid of the body on the field, meaning cards like Vanquish Horazin won't resolve, especially since a lot of Vanquish players are going to one Borger and one Caesar Valius. The likelihood of them having the tag outs is significantly less. Being able to get rid of the yummy names when they normal summon is also really key. And then any normal summon deck that uses it, I think the Heralds are just really great. And you can also play into Herald of Purple, Herald of Blue, I believe, might be yellow. So I haven't, or Herald of Green Light, Herald of Purple and Green Light, being a spell and trap negate. Spell one you might need for Obedience School, but that's where Ash Blossom comes in. The deck just has so much that you can play with it, and it is just really good in my opinion. And now the last one on this list, it did take a lot because there were some decks that I really thought were really great, like Dinomorphia. Dinomorphia is that easy budget deck that just says no to everything. You've got decks like Monarchs, which I really wanted to put on here. My only issue is with Monarchs is it tends to brick. Someone, please definitely correct me down in the comment section below on Monarchs, because I would love to see a list for this. I have been tempted to build this myself, but my last slot has to go to Centurion. Centurion with a super heavy engine, I think, can be pretty insane. Being able to set up a lot of synchro boards like Cosmic Blazar, Bestial Dispatter. You can even play the Bestials in it, which is really good. Being able to float as interruptions. Being able to get rid of cards like the yummy name specifically. Bestials just don't hit any other deck, which is kind of unfortunate. So that's why like a Bestial engine with Centurion isn't as great in this format right now, but a super heavy Samurai one is, just because you get more super heavy or more synchro options, which is crazy. And the fact that the deck can synchro summon on your turn, opponent's turn, your turn again, just gives so much that this deck can push through. It has seen a lot of tops in some regionals here over the past couple months, so I think it has some potential going forward into our post-Worlds format, as do any of these decks. These decks are all relatively cheap. You know, the most that you're probably going to pay for any of these may be close to that, and this is assuming you don't have any of your staples like Ash, Nibs, whatever staples that you might want to play, whether it's Book of Eclipses, Forbidden Droplets, your Imperms, whatever it is. You're not going to spend more than $100 for any of these decks. These cores are relatively cheap, and they are super easy to pick up, especially if you ask around at locals, or you can always go to TCG Player and pick these up. But that is it for my top 5 rogue budget decks post-Worlds. Let me know what you think is going to happen post-Worlds. I have my assumptions on a ban list, and I'm hoping that they come to pass, because we got some things that we want to cook up. And a lot of these decks that I have listed are some that we are cooking up in the meantime till then. But with that being said, again, let me know down in the comment section below what you guys think is going to happen, what rogue decks you would like to see, and we'll pass it over to you.